Hey everyone, this is Pete Heiniger with Stages, and this is going to be part 2 of my journey through chemotherapy. Last time, we kind of covered just the beginning, like when you hear about chemotherapy, some of the kind of misconceptions that I had, some of the things that I had to learn as we were kind of approaching it, and just kind of that beginning as you kind of begin to be introduced to the whole idea of chemotherapy. And just there's a lot that we are told or we've had people tell us, and so I hope the biggest thing that you took away is that each person has a kind of a journey of their own, that it's certainly how I respond to chemotherapy isn't necessarily how everyone else is going to respond, and so that's why it's my journey. And if you're going through it, it'll be your journey, and you'll have to kind of see everyone responds a little bit differently. And so that was an important part, is just kind of walking through the beginning, just kind of the mental part of chemotherapy. But now I want to turn part 2 into, really just saying, let's talk about the week of, right? The beginning. And so the first thing that you're gonna usually get, and this, I don't know this to be true across the board with every single chemotherapy, but I was given a chest port. And so I had that surgery, a small surgery, and it's it's right here underneath my skin. And it's how they can hook up an IV. And really what that does is it gives them easy access to give me an IV. And it doesn't require them to keep poking my arm, a bunch of different times. And so you have that put in because you're going to use that for infusion. You'll use that for drawing blood. You'll use that for a lot of different reasons. And so in the lead up to chemotherapy, of course, I had that put in. And then one of the first things that you do, for me, I have infusion, which is the main chemotherapy where they give me the drugs, in the hospital on Wednesdays. And so if we kind of move back from there, there's 2 things that always have to happen before you have chemotherapy. The first thing that you have to happen is you have to have labs drawn, blood labs. And so they have a number of things that they're looking for within your blood that are going to tell them that. So I go in for that on Mondays. So my chemo week starts on Monday. I usually go in the morning, sometime between 8 and 9. And I have blood labs drawn. And so when the blood labs are drawn, I go in, I'm briefly in the waiting room. It's still in the infusion center, the same place. I go back to a little triage room, and they hook into my port, and then they just draw some blood, and they put those in vials. So it really takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes once they get going. And so they're gonna draw some blood, and that's gonna give them some tests. The reason why we chose to do it on Monday is because I like to have all of that stuff done and the lab results finished, because on Tuesday, which is the second thing that you have to do before any chemotherapy, is Tuesday I meet with my oncology team. And so I go in there, and it really helps if they can kind of look at the labs and kind of look at some of the results, see if my cancer number's gone down and see if other markers are a problem. And so that's helpful to have all of those results in. And so there's one test in particular, my cancer number test, that takes a pretty long time to get done. So I don't want to have labs on the same day that I have my appointment, or that cancer number won't come in, and we'll miss it, and then I can't discuss it with them. So Monday I have labs, really 3 to 5 minutes, I'm in and I'm out. And then I go in for a discussion with my oncology team. Now, the first time, of course, she's going through everything. So the first time I met with my oncologist for week 1, round 1 of chemotherapy, I'm meeting with her, and there's a lot of things that we have to discuss and go over. So she's giving me a really good idea of kind of what we're after. She's really talking to me about side effects, because in the beginning is often when you're the most sensitive to the drugs. Your body has never faced these drugs before, you've never had them before, and so they're going to be a shock to your body. And so there's going to be a lot of different side effects. So she's going Over that, she's making sure that you have possession of all your prescribed medication, because you're going to be given 2 different anti-nauseas, so that you can fight being nauseous and throwing up. And you can take one and then take the other and take the one and take the other, and you can take them off and on to fight the nausea. And so she's going to give you those. Mine were oral, and then that's kind of the plan, to immediately start taking when I get out of infusion. So after she goes through the meds, she goes through just some reminders of what what I can do, kind of, this is kind of how the side effects might hit me and different things like that. And I get all my questions out. Then we're going to, I'm going to leave. That's probably maybe a 20, 30-minute meeting. And then I am going to wait till Wednesday. And then Wednesday morning, I'm going to go in and I'm going to go through, for me, I was doing FOLFOX. And so that was about 5.5, 6 hours of infusion where I have the chemotherapy. And so when I arrived, I had no idea what it was going to be like. I didn't know what the hospital thing was going to be like the room, like what it is. So those were some firsts for me. And I think the first thing I want to say is that you're going to love your staff. Every single person, from from where you check in with registration to where you get brought back to. I have wonderful, wonderful nurses who take care of me all the way through, and they are just a dream. And that's one thing consistent that I've heard throughout all the stories of cancer fighters. They just love their infusion team, and they love all those nurses. And you're going to get to know everyone. I know the security guards at the hospital. I know the outside registration. I know the inside infusion registration. I know everybody, almost everybody by name and whatnot, because I've been there for so many rounds. So these are people that are going to be very, very involved in your life. And if you're like me and you have a long journey through chemo, you're going to be seeing them every other week, for the better part of a year or more. And so it's really cool to kind of ask them questions and make it very personalized. I would suggest, seeing where they're from, and just, getting, the latest, what are they doing for the summer? What are they doing for the winter? What are they doing for holidays? Because it really helps create a family-like atmosphere the more that you're willing to talk and be outgoing with them. And they are literally there to make sure that you're already going through a really hard process, and their job is to make it as easy as possible on you. And they just do a fantastic job. So one of the things I didn't know is that you kind of have to, people talk about getting accessed. That's one of the first things that you're going to do when you go into infusion. You're going to get accessed. And so I have that chest port, and so they're going to put the access in, so the IV, and then they're going to check for blood draw, because they want to make sure that the blood is free, flowing freely through there, and there's no clogs, or it's not coagulating here or anything like that. And so that's really easy. I've really not had any problems with my chest port this entire time, and I'm in round 23. So it's been really, really easy for me. But you're going to get accessed, and then once you get accessed, they're going to take you back after they take your vitals. They're going to take your blood pressure. They're going to take your weight and different things like that. But then they're going to assign you to a chair. In some places, they'll assign you to a room. So some places they have you just in your own room with a little curtain. Where I am, it's just an open setting. So it is completely open. All the chairs are by one another. They can put little stretchy barriers between, where it has a beautiful picture and it puts it between you and the next person, just for a little bit of privacy. But for the most part, we're looking straight out at Pikes Peak. So we're able to see the mountains, and we're able to look out there, and it's just gorgeous and beautiful, and it's just nothing but wall-to-wall windows, floor-to-ceiling windows. And so that's really, really cool, because it just makes the time there as beautiful as possible. You're going through something that's not easy, So being able to see the mountains and see the beauty is really, really nice. So I sit in a chair. That chair usually has a little arm that you can recline, but it also, ours has little heaters that you can turn on, and they kind of heat, and they'll kind of heat the seat in the back of your chair, and so you can turn those on if you're cold or if you've got some back trouble. You can put those on, but you can kind of get adjusted. We have a big arm with a television where you could watch TV kind of really close to you, turned down low, but I don't ever use that. I would prefer either to have headphones on and listen to something, or I'm talking with the person who's with me in infusion and the nurses. And so I just pass the time that way. Once you're accessed and you're brought to your chair, they're going to start you on what's called pre-meds. And pre-meds are important because they're kind of getting your body ready for the shock that you're about to get with the drugs. And so they're going to put you on anti-nausea, and so that's going to be intravenous. And so they're going to take that through that IV, and you're going to have that. You're going to have a steroid, for me at least, and Folfox. I get that. And they give me some pre-meds that are all supposed to help, make the chemicals and the drugs that they're giving me more effective. And so they start that in there, and they're also giving you saline, so you're plenty hydrated and whatnot. They'll ask you if you want a bottle of water, Gatorade, different things like that. They also have some things to eat. In my first week, I didn't want anything to eat because I had an adverse reaction to the first round of chemotherapy. And so we'll talk about that in the next part when we kind of talk about going home and how that was for me. But for the most part, I just want to cover in the hospital and infusion for this section. So we'll get to that a little bit later, and I'll tell you all the details of what my first and second round were like, and then kind of what we were able to do to counteract some of that stuff so that we could have an easier go of it. But I get I'm in the chair, they're putting pre-meds through, and they're doing that. Then they're going to keep coming out when it's time, and they're going to tell you when they're adding a drug. And so they'll hook up the drug. Sometimes you'll notice, because they have safety checks to make sure they're administering the right drug and the right dose to the right person, they're very good at having you say your name and your birth date, and then they're going to repeat that. Then they have a second nurse that's there, and they're reading off everything and checking it and making sure that that's exactly that I'm getting the right stuff for me at the right dose for me. And so they have a very good safety precaution there. And so you'll hear them repeat that often. They'll be saying numbers, and they'll be saying your name, and they'll be repeating things, and that's just to ensure that there is no mistake as they administer those drugs to me. Other than that, infusion is really just a waiting game. You are there, and it's just dripping through your system, and once you get through most of that, it's really just waiting, talking. I didn't really feel super sick or anything immediately. I did feel sensitivity to cold, and so I noticed that every time I took a drink of water or something, it felt like my whole mouth was turning to ice and stuff like that. So that was something that I picked up right away. But other than that, I didn't have many side effects right in the hospital on the day of infusion. At the end, they're going to give you what's called a pump, and the pump can look a little bit different for each hospital. And my pump, it's a battery operated pump. They put the drugs in it, and it's because some of the drugs that you take are so strong, you just can't rush them. You've got to kind of take them over the course of 2 days. And so I have it sit there for about 48 hours. I have to wear this pump. And so the pump connects right to your port, and they're going to make sure that the pump is started, that it's running properly, and that it's administering the drug at the proper sequence. And once that is confirmed, then I have a backpack, and we'll go over that too. I'll show you some of the stuff that I've kind of went out and got, because to me the bags that they gave you were really janky, and they're not fun to carry around, and you wouldn't want them. They're not durable, they're not comfortable, they're just not convenient. And so I'll show you the backpack that I use, and then I just stick my pump in there, I zip it, and it's kind of like a sling bag, and I can sling it over my shoulder, and then that pump stays with me for 48 hours, and then you're kind of released from the hospital at that point, and you're able to go home. So that is really kind of the infusion day, right? You go in, you go through your pre-meds, then you get your drugs, then you get that final drug through the pump, and then you're released, and then you wear that pump for the next 2 days. And so they're going to go over instructions like how do you shower with that pump, what happens if it has, makes some tone or alarm or something like that. I've never once had the pump do anything crazy on me, so I've never had to call in, I've never had a problem. So the pumps are pretty reliable. I've never had a problem, 23 rounds, never once had anything go wrong. There's, I would say get some big Tagaderm, which is that clear kind of skin-like adhesive bandages that you can get. And we ordered a really big, huge, like 80 pack that was cheap on Amazon. But get the really big ones, because you're gonna wanna put that over your dressing and your access on your port if you're gonna shower. Because the one thing that you have to avoid is ever getting that area wet, because it can become infected, and that's no bueno. So you really wanna cover that up if you're going to shower. So that's just one thing to continue to watch and make sure that you have before you come home. So make sure to order that. And when I show you my bag, I'll show you the Tagaderm that I use and kind of the size so you can see it. But that's an important way to kind of protect that area and keep it waterproof. All right. And then once you go home, you are there, just basically do your day however you, as best you can. You're going to face side effects. You're going to be tired. You're going to have some fatigue. You're going to have those things. So you take it easy and everything, but the pump is just there, kind of pumping those drugs through. And so for me, that's, I go home on Wednesday, then I have it all day Thursday. And then on Friday, I go in for the final appointment for the week, and that is pump removal. And what I decided to do early on is to have pump removal and then a little bit more anti-nausea. So in the beginning, I was really sensitive to being nauseous. So in the earlier rounds, when that was true, I would have them administer another round of anti-nausea through my IV, because I couldn't keep a lot of oral down. So I couldn't keep the oral pills down. I was too sick. And so that's something to know that you can do. You can ask them. And then I got hydration, because if you're throwing up, you're losing a lot of fluids. So I make sure I'm well hydrated. And then they remove the pump. So once they kind of go through an IV bag of saline and they hydrate you and they give you that anti-nausea, then you're released. So I'd say maybe an hour to get your pump removed, and then you're out. And that really concludes the week. Now, I will tell you next part, when we do the next part of my journey, part 3, I'll go into more of how I felt, the side effects, those type of things. But just from a procedural standpoint, I would say the high points are the staff are wonderful. They're always there to help you. Don't hesitate to call them if you're feeling sick, if you're throwing up and everything. They'll either coach you, or they'll ask you to, they'll tell your loved one to bring you back in, and they'll do whatever they can to kind of help you through that process to, so if they can administer hydration, if they can get you feeling better, they're going to do everything they can to make that happen. All right. So super straightforward. Chemotherapy didn't throw me any curveballs. I don't think it will throw you any curveballs as far as just the procedure of going in. Every hospital's a little bit different. Obviously not everybody lives in Colorado, so you might not have windows that face a mountain. You might have a privatized room with a curtain instead of just being an open floor like I have. But for the most part, that's kind of the process of infusion as far as my journey was concerned with FOLFOX. So I look forward to telling you more about the side effects, because I think if you're like me, those are the real things that you're concerned about. Like, how am I going to feel? What is this going to do? And what are the challenges? So I will talk to you about that next time. All right. Love you guys. I'll see you later.